5.2, percent equations and percent increase. This video will help you translate and solve percent equations and also calculate percent increase and decrease amounts. Translate and solve percent equations. Let's take a look at a definition here. The standard form of a percent equation is this. A percent of the base is the amount. And this may not make perfect sense right now. That's because we have this generalized, meaning we want this equation right here, or this statement and this equation down here, percent times the base equals the amount. We want this to apply to several different situations. So we kind of make this a general statement. Generally, we're going to take the percent of something. When we take the percent of, we're calling the base. After we get that percent, we're going to end up with an amount. So to make the translation from a written statement to a percent equation easier, notice that we are always taking a percent of the base. Let's take a look at some examples now to help you understand this. Example 1, translate the written statement into a percent equation and then solve it. So here's our written statement here. What number is 15% of 120? So we want to use this right here, a percent times the base equals this amount. Now the percent is always the easiest thing to find, so that's the first thing I look for. So the percent right here, P, is 15%. Now when we write that into our equation, we want to write that as a decimal, so that's going to be 0.15, because here's what I'm doing. I'm taking 15%. To change that into a decimal number, I'm going to take the decimal in 15% and move it 2 places to the left. So I would start right here, 0.15. So we got 0.15 times now the base. And so the base is the thing that we're taking a percent of. And notice we're taking 15% of 120, so that's going in there. And then our unknown is the amount in this case. So now all I'm going to do is take 0.15 times 120, and I get 18. All right, example number 2. Again, we're going to translate this percent statement into an equation and solve it. 20% of the table's price is $43. So again, we're starting out with this P, B, and A. The percent I'm looking for first, and notice here it is 20%. So that's 0.20 or just 0.2. And I'm going to multiply that times the base. What are we taking a percent of? Notice here we're taking a percent of the table's price. So the table's price is our base. Now we don't know what that is. So I'm going to take 0.2b. Once I take this percent, I'm going to end up with $43. So that's my amount. So now to solve for b, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.2. And I get 215. And since we're talking about money here, I would say, the table's price is $215. All right, go ahead and pause your video player now and answer practice questions 3 through 5. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Okay, what percent of 25 is 75? So here we're looking at P, B equals A. Let's look for the percent first. Ooh, it's unknown at this point. What percent? So we're going to leave that as P. What are we taking a percent of? Taking a percent of 25. When we get done taking this percent, we're going to end up with 75. So I'm solving for the percent here, so I'm going to divide both sides by 25. And we get this, that P equals 3. Now we got to be careful because right now when we're solving this mathematically, this is a decimal number. Even though we don't see the decimal in there, 3 is our decimal number. It's kind of like this, 3.0. I still need to write this as a percent. So to go from decimal to percent, we're going to move it 2 to the right. So I'd say, okay, 1, 2 to the right. So actually our percentage here is not 3%, but it's 300%. All right, practice question 4. Andre paid a 15% tip for an $85 bill. What was the tip? All right, our percent now is 15, so 0.15. 80% tip for an $85 bill. So notice we are taking 15% of 85. So 85 is going to be my base. Once we get done, we're going to get our amount. That's our unknown. So all I'm going to do here is put 0.15 times 85. And we'll see that the tip was $12.75. So we want to write over here, that's a $12.75 tip. All right, let's take a look at practice question 5. Translate this. So we're gonna start with this P, B, and A. Looking for a percent. Again, it's unknown. Times our base. We're taking a percent of 50. So 50 is going to be our base. And when we get done taking that percent, we're going to end up with 500. So notice if I take some percent of 50 and end up with 500, I'm going to be well over 100%. Because if I take 100% of 50, there's no change. I end up with 50. Notice it's getting bigger, so I need to take more than 100% here. So start to kind of look for that so you can anticipate that with your answers. So to solve for P, I'm going to divide both sides by 50. Let's see, I can divide one of those zeros out immediately, and then I'm really looking at just 50 divided by 5. Well, that's 10. Now, that's currently still a decimal number. I want to turn that to a percent by moving it 2 places to the right. So this is actually, P is going to be 1,000%. Go ahead and pause your video player now and answer 6, 7, and 8. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 6. So 93 pounds is 15% of the weight capacity. Getting a little more complicated, or at least it sounds a little more complicated, but remember, we're still just sticking with this. P times B equals A. Let's find a percent. 15% right there. So that's going to be 0.15. 15%, what are we taking a percent of? The weight capacity. So we don't know what the weight capacity is. So this is 0.15B. Once we get done taking this percent, we're going to end up with 93 pounds. So there's my equation. Divide by 0.15. And we get 620. So it looks like 620 pounds. Because we talked about this situation, 93 pounds, so we're looking at 620 pounds here. Question 7. Elsie paid $6,345 in income tax on $23,500 in income. What percent of her income did she pay? All right, same thing. P times B equals A. What's the percent we're looking for? Well, we don't know. So we're going to leave that as P. What are we taking a percent of? Look at here, it says right here, a percent of her income. That's what we're taking a percent of. So her income is our base, and that's right here. So we're taking P times 23,500. When we take that percent, we're going to end up then with 6,345. Okay, divide both sides by 23,500. All right, so this is what I get. I get 0.27, but now we need to turn that to a percent, so that's going to be 27%. Question 8. Juan owed a friend $68. If he paid his friend $17, what percent of his debt did he pay? All right, so again, percent here is unknown. So we are taking what percent? We're taking a percent of his debt. So his debt was $68. So we got P times 68 equals 17. Divide both sides by 68. We get 0.25, so he's paid 25% of his debt. Let's take a look at some definitions here. So a commission is the amount of money that is earned as a percent of sales. And the commission equation is another form of the standard percent equation. So notice here is our standard form. Percent of the base is the amount. Now, commission, and there's a lot of people work and earn their living on commission. If we take the commission rate, which is essentially the same thing as a percent, so the commission rate is always our percent, and we're taking now a commission rate of the total sales, and once we take a percent of their sales, that's the commission the person earns. Let's take a look at example 9 here to see what I'm talking about. So Marcus is selling a house and expects to close on Tuesday. His real estate agent's commission rate is 3.5% of the sale price. If the sale price is $110,000, what is the agent's commission? All right, so here's our standard form here. Commission rate times sales equals the commission. So let's see if we can go back and find now the commission rate. So here's the commission rate, 3.5%. I want to write that now as a decimal as I'm putting this in the equation, though. So that's going to be 2 places to the left. So I'm going to have 0.035 times now the sales. In this case, the sales of the house was $110,000. And we want to know what the commission rate is. So maybe we'll just use commission, or maybe C for commission on that side. So what I got to do now is take 0.035 times 110,000. So the agent here is going to earn $3,850. Let's take a look now at example 10. Aaron earned 16% commission on his propane sales. If he earned $30,000 last year, how much propane did he sell? All right, so we know his commission rate. It's right there. That's going to go first, but I want to write that as a decimal. So that's 0.16. That's his commission rate. And now we want to know how much propane did he sell. Well, notice here we're taking a percent of his propane sales. So that's what's unknown here. So maybe we'll put P in there for propane sales. You could put B in there for base too, if you wanted. When we take 16% of his propane sales, we're going to end up with $30,000. So to solve this, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.16. And we're going to get $187,500 in propane sales. Go ahead and pause your video player now and answer practice questions 11 and 12. When you're done, hit play and see how you did. So Robert is purchasing a car. His salesperson earns 5% commission rate. The price of the car is $19,000. What commission will the salesperson earn? So first thing I'm doing is finding the commission rate, which would be 0.05. I'm going to multiply that now times the sales, which in this case was $19,000. And that then is going to give me the commission that this person has earned. So I'm just taking 0.05 times 19,000. So this person is going to earn $950 in commission. Practice question 12. Raquan earned $3,200 in commission after selling at $200,000 in appliances. What commission rate did he earn? So we're looking for the commission rate here. So that's really essentially the percent. So the percent, which is the commission rate, times this $200,000 earns Raquan $3,200. So divide both sides by 200,000. All right, so this is what I get. I get 0.016. So now to turn this into a percent, I'd move the decimal 2 places to the right. 2. So I get 1.6% commission. Calculate percent increase and percent decrease amounts. Let's take a look at two definitions here. A percent increase is the percent by which the original quantity is increased. That makes sense. And a percent decrease is the percent by which the original quantity decreased. So percent change, either an increase or a decrease, is always calculated the same way. We're taking the change that occurred and we're comparing that to the original or starting amount. Let's take a look at example 13 to understand what's going on here. So the car's original cost was $14,000. After some negotiation and a rebate, the cost was lowered to $11,900. What percent discount did this customer get? All right, so here's our equation that we want to use. The percent change, which is what we're looking for, and so I'll use P for percent there, is going to be the change in the quantity here. So I need to find the change between $14,000 and $11,900. So I'm just going to subtract, and that's $2,100. And I want to compare this now, this $2,100, to the original quantity. In this case, the original quantity was the starting price of the car, which is $14,000. So now I'm going to divide that. 2,100 divided by 14,000. And that gives me this, 0.15. Now I want to turn that into a percent, so I'm going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, and that's going to be a 15%. And now notice, this 15% is kind of general. I don't know if this is an increase or a decrease if I just write 15%. So I also want to include, since this was a decrease, we started at 14,000 dropped to 11,900. This is a 15% decrease. All right, example 14. An engineer tracks quality control at a plant. Last month, 600 defective parts were made. This month, the number increased to 615. What percent increase occurred? All right, so again, we're looking for that percent increase. So we want to take the change. So from 600 to 615, that's a change of 15. Compare it to the original. The original we started out with was 600. So I'm going to divide that now. And I get this 0.025. So moving the decimal 2 places to the right, that looks like a 2.5% increase. Go ahead and pause your video player now and answer practice 15 and 16. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. All right, 15. A company produced 70,000 fewer computers than last year. If they produced 500,000 computers last year, what percent decrease has occurred? All right, so they produced 70,000 fewer. That's the change. So the change here is 70,000 fewer computers. And if they produced 500,000 computers last year, well, that was kind of the original or starting amount before this decrease occurred here, 70,000 decrease. So those are the values I want. So I'm going to take 71, 2, 3, divided by 500,000, and I get this 0.14, and as a percent, that would be 14%. Question 16. DeAndre earned $32,000 last year. He received a promotion at work, and his salary was increased to $36,000. What increase in salary? Hold on a minute here. I noticed this. I don't want to just say this is a 14% change. I need to say that this is a 14% decrease. Yep, so make sure we include that. Okay, now 16. DeAndre earned $32,000 last year, and he received a promotion. Increased his salary to $36,000. What percent increase did he get? So our percent increase is going to be the change. So the change from $32,000 to $36,000 was $4,000. And the original, $32,000, okay, we get 0.125. So moving the decimal 2 places to the right, that's going to be 12.5%. And now this is an increase because he got a raise.